Bom dia, bom dia.
Bom dia a todas, todos. Deixa eu preparar. O som tá bom? Todo mundo ouvindo? Deixa eu pegar só aqui meu roteirinho. Bom, vamos lá. Chegamos, bom dia, né? A gente chegou, então, na nossa última conversa do curso, Arquiteturas do Sul Global. Foram 7, essa é a nossa 7ª conversa, né? Foi ao longo desse semestre inteiro. Antes de começar a nossa conversa com a nossa última convidada, a gente sempre faz uma apresentação. Eu sou Marco Artigas, o Pedro Vada, os organizadores do curso, que é realizado pela Escola da Cidade. E antes de começar, eu queria agradecer à Escola da Cidade por realizar esse curso junto com a gente e realizar esses encontros, e principalmente por optar por transmitir ao vivo, aos sábados de manhã, onde mais gente consegue acessar e assistir, e de fazer esse curso aberto ao público, né, de forma gratuita. A gente acredita que é a melhor forma da gente abordar esse tema, e espero que as conversas cheguem o mais longe possível, né? O curso faz parte dos cursos livres da Escola da Cidade, que oferece cursos de temáticas diversas e para o público interessado em geral. E todos os cursos nesse momento, assim como as aulas, né, lá da Escola da Cidade, estão acontecendo de forma remota, por conta da pandemia. Enfim, gostaria de agradecer também a equipe do Baú, da Escola da Cidade, que é a equipe de comunicação, de audiovisual lá da Escola da Cidade, e a equipe de design e assessoria de imprensa, né, que está nos ajudando em todo esse processo de organização do curso. E, por último, queria agradecer a presença do público, vocês que estão acompanhando a gente ao longo do semestre. O Vada vai fazer os agradecimentos depois da nossa convidada e apresentação, etc. Mas antes de começar, como o curso tem um público variado aos finais de semana, faz tempo, falando um pouco sobre o curso, faz tempo que o Vada e eu a gente se debruça um pouco na questão dos processos de projeto, né, de entender, enfim, os desafios que existem durante a parte de criação, de desenvolvimento, muito mais do que o olhar para o final da obra, né, da obra pronta ou do projeto pronto, quando acontece dele não ser construído, né. Mas a gente tem interesse por esses meios, né, e como cada profissional, cada coletivo de profissionais cria, planeja e realiza tudo isso. A gente tem um recorte que é sobre arquitetura contemporânea, né? Então a gente tenta entender o que está acontecendo no nosso tempo, né? E, enfim, e com esse recorte do que está acontecendo no Sul Global, né? Desse lado para cá do hemisfério, que então a gente pretende, com esse curso, tirar um pouco os olhos viciados que a gente tem lá para o hemisfério norte, onde foi muito do nosso aprendizado, e trazer o olhar para cá, onde diversas questões, problemas, acertos, né, acontecem, e é uma troca que pode ser uma troca muito grande, criar essa conexão entre todos esses países e essas pessoas que estão aqui conversando com a gente. Para essas conversas, ao longo do semestre, a gente selecionou 8 encontros, um acabou não acontecendo, mas então a gente vai ter 7 encontros. A gente conversou na primeira aula com o Remígio Chilauli, um arquiteto de Moçambique, com o pessoal do Norte, na segunda conversa, né, oficina de criação de Recife. A terceira conversa foi com o coletivo Matri Architecture, da Nigéria e África do Sul. A quarta conversa com o Sindicato de Arquitetura do Equador. A nossa quinta conversa com a Dengo Architecture, de Uganda. E a nossa a penúltima conversa que a gente teve foi com o Comunal Taller, do México, e agora essa última que a gente vai ter com o DNA, que o Vada vai apresentar. enfim, todas as conversas ficam no canal do YouTube da Escola da Cidade, então vocês podem acessar a qualquer momento e, enfim, e comentar, deixar o comentário lá também se quiser. O mais legal de ver ao vivo é que você pode participar e mandar pergunta na hora, né? Bom, antes de o Vada fazer a apresentação da convidada, eu queria dizer que a nossa conversa deve durar em torno de 1 hora e meia, dependendo da dinâmica aí que a gente coloca. Algumas das nossas duraram até 2 horas, 2 horas e pouco. E após a fala da nossa convidada, a gente vai ler algumas perguntas que vocês mandarem, alguns comentários. A conversa vai ser em inglês hoje, então, mas vocês podem mandar as perguntas em português ou em inglês mesmo, que qualquer coisa a gente traduz e passa para a convidada, né? Então, é muito legal a participação de vocês, torna a conversa mais horizontal, mais dinâmica e mais divertida também. Vada, se quiser fazer a apresentação.
Bom, obrigado a todo mundo que está aí. Então, acho que tem é muito interessante, porque sempre que a gente começa a falar, tenta um pouco trazer as justificativas da escolha das pessoas que a gente convida, né? E aí é muito interessante quando a gente falar de Sul Global, entender a importância que as arquitetas e arquitetos da Ásia têm na produção de arquitetura contemporânea hoje, né? A gente até tentou trazer mais gente da Ásia por motivos de agenda, acabou não dando muito certo, talvez para os próximos módulos, mas a gente tem aqui a nossa convidada de hoje, aqui encerra o curso e que foi a primeira pessoa que confirmou também a presença no curso, que foi muito interessante. Então, o DNA é um escritório de Beijing, na China, e trabalha com diversas escalas. Tem boa parte do seu trabalho em áreas rurais, o que é muito interessante, é uma das questões que a gente vai colocar aqui hoje. Sempre tentando abordar, ao mesmo tempo, questões físicas, sociais, da região, da área onde tem projeto, e na sua abordagem, a discussão do contexto, programa e suas interações são elementos fundamentais, ou seja, o DNA dos seus projetos, e define design e arquitetura capaz de adaptar, engajar e contribuir com a nossa sociedade múltipla e complexa, né? Descrição que está no site deles. Então, a gente tem como convidada a diretora do escritório, a Xu Tiantian, que estudou em Beijing e Harvard, trabalhou em diversos escritórios nos Estados Unidos, na Holanda, antes de fundar o DNA. Recebeu em 2006 o prêmio China Architecture Award e em 2008 o Young Architects Award do Architectural League de Nova York. Tiantian, thank you very much for your presence here. And it's amazing because you are the last talk that we have. You was the first person to confirm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Pedro. Thank you for the introduction and also the invitation to speak to our Global South audience. So I'm going to share my screen. Before I do that, I also want to thank my colleague, Wang Qing. Hi, everyone. This is my colleague, Wang Qing. He's going to help me out with all the Saturday nights. Okay, let's do share screen. Okay, so can you see the
yes.
the screen? Okay, great, thanks. So today I'm going to introduce our Shantian story, which is the architectural practice.
Can you put in the presentation mode?
Presentation.
Because we can see all the software,
okay.
the interface of the software.
Is that working?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, it's the same, but okay, it's not a problem.
It shows as the presentation mode on our desktop here. Let's see. Is that working?
It's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is where we've been working in the past 7 years in Songyang County. It's a small county in and also a typical agricultural county with 240,000 people in total and 50,000 in the urban center, and the rest 190,000 are in the villages. So this is the county urban center, the iconic mountain and the river, the mother river, Songyi River running across the whole valley, and also over 400 villages in the mountain and also flatland. And just like any other the rural regions in China, and I guess in most part of the world, the rural area in Songyang County also face the critical issues like the losing of population and losing of the young population and young laborers and the community are losing the face in the economic in the village's future in general. So. And since 2014, we've been working with the local government and also the local communities by taking architecture as an effective strategy to look into these symptoms and to look for a healing process for this region, for these symptoms and also for the region. The Songyang story, I mean, it's basically the overall subject, but each time we do have a new progress. So today I will show you our recent projects and also the new progress in this ongoing project. Before that, I want to reassure that the principle of the acupuncture strategy is to serve the village and the community, to restore the village and the rural identity, and also to open up for tourism and to stimulate economic development. So in each project or in each village, there will be a small scale of public program introduced into the village based on its context, based on its heritage and culture and history. So it could be a renovation of an existing project, or it could be a new public space. The first project is a oil factory, a oil workshop, which used to be this is an abandoned, actually a vacant mill house, a mill workshop at the entrance of the village, and these are the villagers' houses around. And this vacant mill workshop had over 100 years of history. So the idea is that to take this, it used to be a shared meal workshop or like a meal kitchen. Anyway, it's like a shared public kitchen for the whole village community. So the idea is to reactivate the space and also to add in some new space to enlarge and also to accommodate some tourism program. And more important, to turn this meal factory into an oil production factory or workshop. And of course, shared by the whole villages. So this is the old space, the original space with the ram earth walls, and these are the new additions by concrete and also the stones, the petals cut in half. And you can see this, the new and the new and old, connected by the wooden bridges or walkways. And of course, the original mill house is kept as what it was before, and do all these textures, and also even the kind of the wall. It remained like the original form as the memory of this village. And the new parts extend out. This is the original mill workshop in the middle. And the new additions are wrapping around by these stone walls and central these wooden traditional tenant and more these wooden structure. And these are all the new additions are done by the local villagers with the local techniques. So from outside, you basically see that the old house the old workshop is surrounded or is hiding behind all these new additions, facing the creek and facing the mountain. And these are the new additions going, the new space, looking back towards the old house. So it's like a kind of embedded in between. It's like adding the new layers to the original workshop. And you really have to walk into it and to go through the layers to explore the ancient mill workshop. This is a picture showing the new additions as kitchens. And if you walk into the space, this would be the original space, and all these miling tools or facilities are kept as the original. This is the water wheel and driven by the water power, guided from the creek inside the space, and the extraction tool, the wooden tool to extract the oil from the camellia seeds. This is the water wheel that when it's activated by the water will come in here and turn around the water wheel.
Yeah. We don't have your presentation.
Sorry?
We don't have your presentation now. I don't know.
You don't have
happened.
the screen or what? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yes.
let's cancel and then we can share screen again. It was kind of a flipping around.
No, if you want, we can put the presentation here. We're past it.
Okay, let's put it on again. Is it working? Okay, let's just keep it this page. Is it working right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it like this. Is it okay for you?
Sure, no problem.
All right. Okay. So this is the water wheel will be activated by the water creek coming in, and which is the water power in this whole project, and that will also trigger the motion underneath in the lower level. So this is the miling, which is made by stone, and also the wood, the grinding part. It would be the rice or the beans. I don't know if you have seen this, or do you have that in your country? I think this is one of like the common facilities in the Chinese villages. That's almost like a public kitchen or public miling meal house in the village, and that's the extraction machine. Wooden tools are kept as the original, and also it's used by the labor, by the villagers for the oil production. So all these, and the whole story around this is that the original ancient house is kept as what it was before, and it's wrapped by new additions. And also the house is full of the, when you walk into the house, when you're really coming inside the space, the center of this whole project, you will discover the motion and also the sound of the water power and of all these wooden tools, which is really making kind of the soul of the space. So in this project, it's about all these kind of finding and the sound, the noise kind of guiding you through the layers of space and enter into this central ancient space and almost like dark in a way. And here we didn't make any new additions except on the roof. You will see the kind of a lighting quality that it's natural light. It's by it's only to replace the original tiles with a different kind of glass tiles in local kind of. It's also a local material. So by adding this light, it's adding kind of a sense of a dramatic atmosphere. So the whole project is to reveal and kind of setting more how do you say, like chapters before you enter and finally discover the central heart of this ancient mill house. And next project is the Tofu Factory along the in a different village. It's in Caizhai village, which has the best tofu production in the whole county. So this is a new factory by the entrance of the village, where it's also forming a different kind of organization by the villagers in this factory. So basically, this is rather a production factory compared to the oil workshop. Oil workshop is more like a shared public kitchen, and also during the winter season, it could be used by every family to make their oil, camellia oil, in the winter season. But tofu production could be run like in a whole year. And this is really setting up two villager unions on this project for the production and also for original bean production. And the whole factory is taking over the kind of a terracing site by the entrance of the village. That you can see it's following the topography. So the and also it's following the topography. Facing on one side it's a street, and on the other side it's a creek again. This is a different village, but for some reason all these mountain villages have a creek running through. I think this is also the original principle when the first generation of the villagers arrived here. They picked this site to build up their village and stayed here for 10, 20, or even maybe hundreds of generations. That's the Tofu Factory. It's basically kind of a one-story project, building and taking up the terraces along the topography, and it's the whole factory is divided into 6 compartments. Preparation room, where the original material coming in, and then grinding compartment and boiling compartment, deep frying compartment, and drying and cooling compartment, and also the tasting hall. So we will get to see how tofu is produced in a bit. These are the factory spaces. Like I said before, this is run by the the villager union and also the family workshops become the shareholders of this whole village factory as a collective economic entity. And these the production is by one of the villagers unions that are organized by the family workshops. And there's also on the side, there's also a walkway, a passage for the visitors to watch the production process. In a way, all these production of either tofu or the other in some other villages, there are also different kind of unique productions. And these become the heritage of this village, intangible heritage, and also become a live museum to showcase the traditions. We think all these agricultural production are also the heritage and history of individual villages. So in a way, these are also the production factories are also the village museums. That's the section cutting through the space. And this is the walkway for the villagers and also for the visitors. That's space shared by both villagers and visitors. And most of the time it's used by the villagers as a public, like a leisure space. So in this project, tofu making is kind of like daily food in a Chinese family. So in the village, almost every family can make tofu and every day, and it's like besides rice, it's like the daily the food. So we take this as kind of our, just the daily. In a way, we want to create the kind of home or kind of a daily, even like a daily routine, but it's part of our daily life. So in this way, the project is more, it's using the wooden structure and wood material. It's similar to the traditional houses, but here it's the assembly timber structure to fitting with our modern building regulations. But it's also kind of showing a kind of a warm character in all these spaces. And this is also facing to our village and the landscape. In this one, let me see. Are you able to see that I'm going to show the movie here, a short film?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, then, so next, in another village, Hengken, where they have this bamboo forest in this region and really beautiful landscape. So in this village, it's rather a simple exercise in a bamboo forest in mountain next to the village. And so we're taking these live bamboo because they are this type of bamboo in the mountain area. They can grow to up to 15 meters a year and sustain for 5 to 7 years. And their roots are as strong as a concrete foundation. If you get to learn about the bamboo, the characters of bamboo, you will know that basically the bamboo forest is like a monster underground, and it's more like the bamboos in above the ground is more like the hair of this monster. So yes, the bamboo, it's like it could grow rapidly along this mountain area and easily taking over the whole space. And again, it's very like it's connected very strong underneath with its root system under the ground. So we take this as we were joking that this is like making a hairstyle for something underneath the ground, and we started to think about, instead of cutting off the bamboos, and when you're working with the bamboo structure, you know that you have to deal with all these kind of a treatment for the bamboo tubes and pieces. So in this case, we don't have to do anything. We don't need to do any treatment, and we don't need to construct because it already has its strong foundation. So the only thing we need to do is only to weave them together. It's like like those bamboo crafts, and you actually weave the bamboo panels into an object or into a space. And in this case, and every 2 years, 1 or 2 years, you can replace the dead bamboo with the new ones. So it's a like maintenance space. In a way, it's also just a casual public shared space in the mountain. And we also think
it's not a temporary space.
No, you can just leave it there. You don't have to deal with it. You don't have to look after that. You don't have to take care of that. But if you want, you can just easily walk into the space, and you can also reserve the local opera performance in this open space in the nature. We call it bamboo theater. You can easily take it as any kind of a leisure space in the nature. No, it's not temporary space. Look at it. If you see this straight bamboo, these are the new bamboos growing out. So either we can just leave it like that, or maybe we can remove it, or we can add it into our dome structure. And it could be done in 1 or 2 years. And in a way, it's very casual, or you don't really make it very neat form or clean shape like architects used to do.
Chen, how the bamboo are they tied up in the top of this crown?
See this? This is how we build it. Actually, to stretch all these, like making a hairstyle.
A gente está tendo algum problema. Tiantian?
So they are different.
Tiantian?
Yeah. Hello.
Can you
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Now, yes, but can you go back to the Bamboo Theater? Because
Okay.
we didn't listen you.
You want me to?
We have. Bom, ela avisou que poderia dar alguns problemas, porque a Inter falou que estava com algumas instabilidades na internet. Então a gente está esperando ela. Ela falou que talvez tentaria se reconectar.
É que não demoraria mais que 1 minuto.
É.
Vamos lá. Acho que está dando certo agora.
Hello.
Hello. Now it's
Hello.
fine.
Okay. Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
We stopped in the Bamboo Theater movie.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's about it. Yeah.
Travou de novo, né?
É.
Ah, pessoal, um pouco de paciência. Ela pediu esse... Ela falou que poderia acontecer isso.
Hello.
Hello. Is it working now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's some connection issues here.
No problem.
Okay, so we're gonna share the screen again, and we will start with the Wanji Memorial Hall project.
If you could please come back to the Bamboo Theater.
Oh,
to the
no
construction issues.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Okay, so can you see this picture? It's showing how it's constructed. Well, it's how it's instead of the traditional way of construction, this is rather weaved without really kind of making foundation or anything, because the bamboo has a very, very strong root system. So we take this as the original foundation, and this type of bamboo can grow like it has kind of it can sustain the tension. So it will be, if you drive in the mountains, sometimes you can see this bamboo can grow almost horizontally out of the ground. So we take this character of this type of bamboo, and then we just work with the live bamboo to weave them into, like you can see, this is the original form. That's the bamboo forest, and you make the kind of a light platform for the workers to take down, pull down all these bamboos with the stripes, with the ropes, and then to tie them in the center. These are the process. And actually in the center, it's a circle with the, let me see, let's take into, this is the circle, and all these bamboo are pulled down by a rope. And here it's more like a stiff, I think it was made by the wood or bamboo plates to sustain the force in the center. And all these are taking like it's weaving into a certain pattern, and you can see the kind of almost like a rotation of this bamboo structure, which is fine because in the architecture you wouldn't work with this, but because the bamboo has a kind of it could resonate in a way with the wind, with any motion. So it's working well with this light structure. And you don't worry about the collapsing, even though the rope broke, or at some point the bamboo will just grow like backward to the sky. Does it make sense? And I will also show you the movie. And this, I think the construction was done in a week, at most 10 days. And so here you can see this is the round, kind of a circle panel, or maybe the only structure pre-made in a whole project. Next project, I will show, I will introduce the memorial hall for an ancestor, Wang Jing, in this Wang village. Unlike the other three villages that we have seen before, they're more or less in a mountain area with the scenic landscape, bamboo forest, creeks, agricultural fields, and most of the houses are still maintained as the original rammed earth traditional forms. This one village didn't have the kind of scenic or beautiful or nostalgic images, and because it was zoned as industrial area in the 90s. You will see that you can tell from the pictures that this is surrounded by the factories and the chimneys. But so on our first visit in 2016, when we first walked into the village on the rainy day in April, it was impossible to picture that this used to be the most prosperous, most glorious village in the whole region back to 400 years ago. So in this village, it wasn't about the natural resource, the scenic views, which it didn't have, but it's rather to discover the historical context. When we talk with the villagers, they really show the kind of enthusiasm when speaking about their ancestor Wang Jing, who was the chief editor for the. He was an imperial scholar back in Ming Dynasty, and was also a chief editor for Yongle Encyclopedia, which is the largest encyclopedia in the world. And he's also one of the three most famous historical figures in Songyang County. So in a way, we after the discussion, we together, of course, it's with the communities decided to take this context, this historical context as the key element to introduce the acupuncture strategy. So in a way, also to restore the glory and the pride and honor of this ancient village. So this project is located in the center of the village, facing the Wang family's ancestors' hall. And the whole, if you look at the plan, it's actually only defined it by the village fabric. All these lines or the divisions are by the as continuation of the village fabric or extension of the fabric. And since the space is separated into a few rooms connected, so we take all these corners, these are structural corners, and we also take these structural corners as the memorial corners. from the preface, and then you will walk into the space to from the it's basically like a timeline of this Wang Jin's life story from his childhood, and then a teenager, or when he 20 years old, and eventually become a imperial scholar back in the capital city. So that would be how we utilizing the space to introduce this ancestor. But in the other way, it also frees up the space into a public area for the villagers. Instead of having all the exhibitions in the center of the space, it's more going around the corners and taking these structure corners, which are the concrete bearing walls, into the memorial corners. You can see that how it's carved into a image, like a storytelling process. This is the section. It's one story of space walking into the space. And you will see that there will be each one is almost like a image or a story, a chapter of this ancestor's life. And the stone carving is made by one of the factories surrounding the village. So in a way, it's also kind of a convenient for the workers and also for the villagers to identify this kind of technique. There are not too many text or material in objects for this ancestor. So it's more about kind of creating this almost like a temple for the villagers to respect their ancestor. And all these memorial corners are lit from above, which is a skylight hidden, stretching out of the roof. So that would be the main light resources coming into the space. And also the side wooden panels with a kind of a certain depth. It could be a bookshelf, but it also could be like the depths to block the light into the space. And all the lighting fixtures are hidden behind here. And the form of this memorial corner is specifically articulated because it's more like the traditional kind of a way showing the respect in our tradition. And I guess this form is used in many different kind of cultures or religions. So that,
Shantian,
yeah.
There's a glass roof on the corner, or it's an open air.
It has the glass panel on top. So if you look at this image, you will see that all these corners are stretching up 1 meter above and become like this is for the skylight to coming into the space, the corners. So you don't really see this from outside. We only kind of we intended to make the whole architecture as more like a quiet space, quiet ram earth wall kind of wrapping around. It's like the other buildings in the village. You know, this is the ancestors' hall, and this is the memorial hall facing each other. So it's like just a typical language you use in this fabric in this area. But the idea is to create something when you walk into the space. It would give you a sense of contrast. So that's showing the entrance where the kids are picking inside the space. And from there on, from this moment, it's it kind of bring you into almost like a different time dimension in this space. And then you see all these are the structural corners, but they are not showing on. They are wrapped by the ram earth. They're only showing on the rooftop. Actually, we have a rooftop. You can see this kind of languages on the roof.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have the video for this one. We'll also give you the video later. But then, and you will see that with this idea of memorial corners, and it does free up the space for different kind of activities in here. Basically, each traditional village only has one public space for hundreds of years. That would be the ancestors' hall, where they have the weddings and funerals and also the different kind of events. It's almost like a church in the Western communities. So in these contemporary, in these days, only one public space doesn't really fit into our contemporary, life requirements or whatever the young generation needs. So that the idea with acupuncture is also to adding a new layer of public space into the village, but not to, but also it has to be something related with this village's tradition or heritage or the crafts. And this ancestors' hall also inspired the villagers to set up their small business next door, and also to set up their own other tourism programs. And this film was taken not just right after this building, the ancestor hall was completed. And you can see on this rooftop, you will see this 17 memorial corners extending out. And yes, on top, they're covered by the glass panels. So this is also, we call it one of the rural museums. It's a easy maintenance and space for the villages. Basically, it's just like a public space. You can walk in without any kind of a check-in points. It's open to public. And the next project is also a recently finished rice wine factory in another village on top of the mountain. They claim they have the best rice wine in the whole region because they are at the highest altitudes on top of the mountain, so they have the best water or humidity. It's a bit like when you have the wine culture in France or in other countries. So yes, the rice wine production from this village, this Shantian Village, has become the key heritage and also to engage with the acupuncture strategy. And this is how where you enter the village. Here there was an empty lot, also a sunken site on this piece of a flat land. And then from this point on, these will be the villagers' houses around the topography. And this, since this is sunken space, and also because of the building volume given by the village community, we decided to build this project. This piece of architecture will be kind of a space with the 3 layers, 3 stories, and each story has its own program defined by the production needs. So wine cellar, the storage in the basement, in the sunken part, and then production on the entrance level, on the ground level, which also facing the village on one side and the landscape mounting on the other side. And there will be the production factory, also isolated from the public route. On top of that, the second floor will be the leisure recreation space with the wine tasting or with just a kind of open leisure space. The ground level and second floor. And ground level, because of the wine production procedure, it also needs certain shading on its surface. All three levels have different kind of building densities. And the wine cellar is the storage, so it's more compact space. And the ground level has this production area and also a kind of a passage for the public visitors. And this is also open to the villagers as a leisure shaded area corridor, similar to the Tofu Factory. It's shared by the villagers and visitors. And also by the rice wine production villager union. And on top of that is the leisure space, more connected with the nature. So all these three levels have different densities, and which also reflected on the kind of arch on the roof. The density or the openness on the roof. On the ground level, it's more like compact storage, darker space, and on that was the underground level. So on the ground level, this is the production space, and you can see the rhythm where you have the light coming in, and also the visitors can observe from the side. And this is also showing a different kind of the compartment, the procedure for rice wine making. This is the cooking as well. Each process in the agricultural production engages with the cooking. And then that's the rice wine making, and this is the second level. It has this more like open, so you can see that the space has more like a covered space or voids. It has the kind of a lower density of the building volume in a way. And that means this level is open for all visitors, for everybody to be shared as a common leisure platform, and also to look out to the landscape. So in the past 7 years, this project has become almost like a mapping system in this whole region. And each one is telling a story of its own site or location, about its own, the history or the crafts, the tradition in each village. And the interaction of these programs also reflect the key heritage and landmarks of the whole county. And in general, it's not only about architecture. It's more about through architecture to integrate the history and historical and socio-economic development as a holistic approach. So with the in each village, it has also by restoring the village identity, it has also inspired, motivated the communities to initiate like a further new tourism program or other production programs. So in the last 3 years, the county population has increased over about 6,000, mostly in the rural villages. Next project is a new recently finished project with the Shantian co-op housing. Shantian Village is the let me see. It has a 600 years of history, and has we have all the numbers for the families, and also as an ancient traditional village, Shantian has remained its traditional form, but also it gradually became a hollow village with many vacant houses. So the housing situation in the village, in rural areas, is the opposite of the city, where cities always need more housing, and in villages we have a lot of empty houses. That's why we call it, some of the villages, we call them the hollow city, because it has very low population. So in this project is to reutilize the empty, the vacant houses, and also to turn it into a collective economic entity with the villager unions, and also together working with the town and county government, and to utilize what we have. We call it share economy. In this project, it's like a new experiment in many different levels. But first of all, it started with a rather conservative preservation strategy to refurbish all these villager houses, because it's under this preservation code. So all these renovations or refurbish done into each houses, it's 100% by the local material, and also the local technique, and also the local neighbors. And if you look at all these windows, they are pretty much the same as what it used to be before. Only to kind of some of the houses we did lift up the roof, because of this. The wooden structure allows this flexibility, so that in that sense we are able to use the second floor space. In the traditional way, the houses are only used with the main activities are only on the ground level, and the second level are mostly used as storage rooms. So in this case, we wanted to, instead of building new houses, we wanted to fully utilize all the available spaces in a village. So there was the original situation, and this will be the second floor. The planning and design in this village follows the preservation guidelines of minimal intervention. The renovation is done by local builders with traditional techniques, and the houses at the entrance are converted into reception and also a canteen for all the villagers and visitors. This also serves daily meals for the elders in the village. That would be the canteen area. The 3 historical buildings in the center of the village kept open as public cultural spaces. And most of the houses are refurbished with modern facilities as the homestay houses. For example, all these guest rooms are installed with the bedroom and bathrooms. And all the kitchens and workshop are preserved for visitors to experience the original village work and life. So there was the preservation, but on the other hand, this village has also developed a new hybrid collective economy to preserve the economic potential within the village and the villagers. The hybrid collective economy entity consists 6 sectors, 3 villager unions, housing, farmland, equity, where in each union, the villagers can choose to participate with different assets as the shareholders. And the village collective community, this also participate as one of the sectors. And the other 2 are formed by companies. So this is either by town or by the county as 2 companies. In a way, this is to share this economic entity is shared by villagers and the village community, and also town and county. But the county is more about the kind of subsidies fund into these shares. So it does also engage with more innovative policy making and also innovative use of the public subsidy funding. On the other hand, the preservation of the original form of the village, and also the different kind of agricultural contents or productions in this area, in this village, can also create or provide a new experience for the city residents to have a closer relation or connection with the nature. So it's working with the tourism program, and also mostly attracting the young children to this area for an agricultural life in the mountain in this ancient village. Thank you. That's all for me for today.
Amazing.
Thank you.
So,
we managed.
we really love your work. It's amazing. Thank you very much. And we have maybe if you can turn your volume down, please. Yes. Can you hear me? Okay. And we have a lot of questions in the comment sections, but I want to start with a question of mine. But Teresa asked something more or less the same. But it's impressive how your work and how your strategies aims to bring to the rural areas some kind of new public spaces, and it's not just the fabric or the workshop area. It's a new public space, and you told us about the strategy of to maintain the young people in the rural area because they go to the big cities. It's almost the same here in Brazil. We have the countryside of Brazil. It's huge. We have a lot of rural population, and it's the same problem because the manual workers are dying, and the young people, they are not learning how to do the things, and they go to the big cities. And it's amazing because the importance of the memory and the identity, it's embedded in your work. And I want to know more about this. Not the strategy, but the how is important to you to work in the rural areas, and if, as Teresa asked, if it's part of some program of the Chinese government to encourage the rural population to stay in the rural areas.
I think first of all, there is this the general background that the government started this rural revitalization. It's like from the central government. It's a national campaign in the whole country to promote like a rural development, right? You probably heard of some other in some other regions. it could be many different ways. So the Songyang story is not like some other regions with a massive investment into one village, only to serve the tourism. It's rather to reactivate what was hidden in these ancient villages. For villages with hundreds of histories or even 1,000 years of histories, there must be something strong. There's a strong bonding, and there's a very, the history with real depths. So in a way, it's to kind of find the energy from within the village itself, and let's say the production of rice wine production, or the other productions, the tofu productions. Once we have this project built, like a factory, and to attract like visitors, tourists, the production price also went up. Sometimes it can really create a kind of a new jobs for the villagers, and to attract the young villagers back home into their. These are the kind of the production. Most of the people in these villages, they learned from very young age. So it's like almost like to make it more sustainable. I would say in that way, it's a kind of more cultural, and also a cultural sustainability in this whole strategy. It's not only to work with the economic revenues, only to serve the tourism, but rather to extend its own context, its own heritage, its own kind of a tradition. So in a way, you just have to organize these different parts together. Acupuncture, it is saying that the acupuncture is to reactivate the blocked energy. So in these villages, if you really kind of discover further into each village, you will find a lot of hidden history or resources. And like in the tofu factory, every family can make the really delicious tofu in the region, and they can, once you can build a factory to attract people coming, visiting, and also to create kind of a distribution channels or resources or platforms for this production. For example, this factory is rather a modern factory, so all this home production can be sold in the city supermarkets, which we're really making it more income for the villagers, for this union. So I think in a way, architecture has become the how do you say, the kind of an engine and to integrate different aspects. Now it's like it's not a big company, and it's not making like tons of money, but it's already very good enough for the villagers to see the hopes, to see the progress.
And you are monitoring this transformation passing in the years after the built project.
We also follow with the procedure, but it's rather a kind of a collaboration with the communities, with the government. I think every part is working together. It's not like someone's leading or who's in charge. It's actually rather a collaboration, because it needs like it needs an innovative policy making by the county government. And it needs like a subsidy or financial support from different levels. It needs the community to engage and to form the villager unions. And it also needs a good architecture as well.
Well, and the last question before Marco. And I never drank rice wine. Is it good?
Sorry, say it again.
I said I never drank the rice wine. Is it good?
Sorry, say it again.
Is it good?
I never drank the rice wine. Is it good? Sorry, say it again. I never drank the rice wine. Is it good? Sorry, say it again. I never drank the rice wine. Is it good? Sorry, say it again. I never drank the rice wine. Is it good? The rice wine, yes, it's good. It's it's like it's I guess the winemaking, it's very similar. It has the basic principle around the world. It's more about the humidity, kind of the soil, the topography, the rain, the water. So yeah, they claim that even though there's another village not too far away, this village claim they have the best rice wine, but I think it's a mystery, but it is the best production.
I will look for. Maybe we have here in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my question is in the same line, because I guess I don't know. Maybe there exists research for this, who chose this building use. Who organized this research? Do you participate? With this, the program of the building and everything?
Yeah, no. We it's not like someone's doing the research and gave it to us. We work together with the communities and also with the different departments of the government, cultural departments, agricultural, and sometimes transportation, and yes, and also water conservancy. We basically worked at tourism, of course. We work with all departments in the county. But yes, it's each project has different ownership. Some are owned by the town, and some are by the villages, and some are by the tourism department, let's say, or cultural department. So these are all kind of these all varies, but in general they are in Songyang County, and they are mostly the public buildings, except some are owned by the village as collective community. So that's a collective ownership, I think, which is slightly different from maybe from your country. But you get to know that the village community is like basically one large family with hundreds of people, and sometimes 1,000 or 2,000 of people.
Sure.
We have the same here in the countryside.
No, and following that comment, Marina made this question. In the first two projects, you have space that have a community dimension that integrates with the factories. Did the people who live in the village participate in any way in the design process? It's after all the program.
The villagers in each village, they start from the beginning of the project and like deciding the program and working on looking for the best spot location, right? And they were the construction teams. And later on, the production also run by the villagers as a villager union. So they form this union to operate the factories or the space. So yes, it's all within the village and the construction, and also the operation of the space, the maintenance of the space.
Perfect.
So basically, even though we are always working in this area, we don't have the privilege or luxury like some architects can always work with one building, one construction team. If you are you build a partnership. For us, each project is a brand new collaboration. So it's always starting with all kinds of fights.
Qiantian, I saw an interview with you at the architecture review, and you said that you used to work with galleries and art centers in a villages and all that's program, and before start to work with the public building and all these projects that you showed us. With local building techniques and limited budgets as well, that you said. How was this transition? Or you used, or you still do these galleries and the more fancy architecture? I don't know how this.
No, I think our office has always been working with the public projects, and mostly with the cultural projects, and even the rural, all these, even the factories, we still call it the cultural projects. Yes, we used to, in the beginning years of our studio, we used to work with the artist community to build some art centers or artist commune, which were also in the artist villages. That's like the outskirts of the Beijing city, right? And those are more art and cultural spaces, facilities for the artist communities. And I think that has kind of a similarity when you're working with the villager community. You always the building is always serving certain communities, right? But I think I personally feel definitely much more challenging, but also more rewarding when you're working in the rural, because you get to learn more about the real life, and it's really engaging with the different aspects of the real life. I mean, even today, I was talking with Wang Qin before the presentation. We have to make sure how we say that properly in English, the mining, the grinding, and how and in the tofu you have this different procedure, right? And this is something architects don't really get to learn in your education. And you have to know. Yeah, and it's sometimes somehow agricultural, but the China is the Chinese civilization or Chinese culture is really based on its agricultural history, and we still have half population living in the rural area. So it's, I don't know about in other countries, but it's really part of our like, how do you say, how our culture and our social culture, and where you can see the tradition from are generated. So that and in the Chinese culture, all these agricultural procedure becomes the kind of a ceremony. We have everything kind of before you make the rice wine, before you start the rice wine production, 2 or 3 seasons every year, there's always a ceremony. So it's like making it. People really taking this, kind of have a respect for the nature in the agricultural society. And I think this is with the nature, with the culture, and also with our tradition. And we don't have that kind of ceremony or celebration in our city lives anymore. And so for me, it's like really, it was really a learning process for me to understand more about our own culture. So I think in a way also will affect your understanding on architecture as well. So all these buildings, unlike the art space, normally it's only for the art pieces and for the audiences. All these buildings, they are for the real life, like the oil workshop I show as the first one. It's a pity we couldn't have a video, but it's really about this kind of a 100 years old of house, ancient house, really has a soul. When the grinding and the mining is working, you hear the sound and you hear the water, and the water's running through the space. So it's really, it's something like we have to, as an architect, I think we have to really to embrace and respect this part of the space, how it's interacted, how it's used in the real life with people.
And it's clear for me, because all that project that you show us, it's amazing how they be part of the urban fabric, the local urban fabric. mainly in the rural areas, but the memorial too. So it's not. Sometimes the architects think that to create a building that it's part of the urban fabric, the local urban fabric, it's a matter of materials or color, just or height, but it's not. It's about to understand the process of the local people, the local users or the local habitants, and your process. It's clear to me that your process of design is to understand how the things works and how to build these amazing buildings that you do. And it's delightful to see this in your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have another questions here from the audience. Bianca Lupo asked, at the Wanjing Memorial Hall, how did you transform the structural corners into memorial corners? I mean, were the pillar excavated or something like that?
Well, what? Say again.
Yes. If the pillar, is there a pillar excavated? I don't know if excavated is this word, or something like that.
Yes, in this way, I show that we talk about the structural corners. So in a common way, you would make a column there, right? So in this case, we use the concrete bearing walls to make a corner. So two panels to make a corner. So also it embrace like a corner space. And like I show the arch on top, it's a kind of articulated into a form as a kind of to show the kind of a certain sense of respect to this corner. So it's basically formed by the structural bearing walls. And it's also extruding out of the roof to make it kind of a space, a different proportion of space compare with the interior, right, which is more horizontal. But then you have the vertical corners, and also lit from top, you have the light coming in from the top. So in the space, like almost like a dark space, when you have all these 17 corners with the light coming in, it does instantly create a kind of a contrast between the central space and the corners. And normally when you're working in let's say in any of these rooms, I'm sure the rooms around you as well, in the daytime, the corners are always the dark corner, right? But here in this project, you kind of make the opposite. You light up the corners. Instantly, it's already a different sensation in the space. So that's how all these, it's not that complicated. It's just kind of a change the routine, change some of your kind of a routine sense.
Yeah, but it's a very sensible way to see the things.
Yeah, it's how you kind of make you have to actually be more sensitive about the space. Like something we take it for granted, but maybe we can make a question mark on that and make a change. And you don't need to use the kind of forms or different kind of I don't know, architectural treatments. But in a way, it could make you could create a space, a different sense of space.
Yeah, it's simple, but it's not common.
Yeah, it's not common.
You make it simple.
Yeah.
It's actually rather to challenge the kind of a common sense.
Yes. Yeah. And that was built in the place or prefabricated, the columns?
Say it again.
If was built in the place or was prefabricated?
No, it was built on site. It was a low budget project in this case. Yeah, in Tofu Factory, it's prefabricated. prefabricated assembly timber structure. And in that project, we had more budget.
Okay. And I have a question. You mentioned the Tofu project, but all the projects have, in a way, some sense of public spaces. Not just for the use of the buildings, but in the memorial, something more than of the memorial program happens there. In the Tofu factory is the same. And how is it traditional in China, this kind of buildings serve as public spaces too? Because here in Brazil, we have this kind of public buildings with another use that the communities use as public spaces, but it's not so common. It's not so traditional. But almost all the projects that you show us is this kind of thing.
Yes, it's actually by intention, like I said in the beginning, that it's a public program introduced to the village. But also, like I mentioned before, that each village had their traditional public place. That would be the only public space, the ancestors' house, right? And they don't have the kind of luxury of having the other public program, let's say the cinemas, the museums, all these galleries or libraries like what we have in the cities. So basically, it's almost like all in one package, all in one strategy in this whole Songyan story. So each project, you have the production, you have the cultural space, and you can run a cultural program, and you also have all the public leisure, and sometimes also commercial space as well. The factories can sell their wine or tofu on site. So it's really kind of, you have to make it almost like integrate all the public functions into one building.
And we have one more question of the audience. Hugo Serra is asking how an architecture company is selected to design the public buildings in China. It is price bid, or a design competition, or the public departments are free to choose any architect?
It's different. For the large-scale projects, it's normally with the public, like open competitions. And to certain scale of projects, it's invitational competition. So 3 teams are invited to come for the competition. And for the smaller scale, within certain budget, I think was with the construction budget like under a few millions, that's invitational project. You can give it as a commission. And so for the projects we did in Zongyang, we had 1/3 of the projects are pro bono projects, like the Shantian Village, even though it's a big project, but that was like a pro bono project. We worked with the 3 years. And then we also have a number of projects they were commissioned, like the Wanji Memorial Hall and the Bamboo Theater, and in somewhat small scale projects. And for we only have a few not large scale, but relatively larger than the villager.
The bridge, for example.
That would be the invitational competition. Yeah.
Okay. And that is never a prize competition.
A what?
A prize competition.
A prize? What is a prize?
How you will spend to contract the project?
I don't know what does it mean.
If there is some kind of competition, because in Brazil sometimes the office have to I don't know, to to take a lower price of the
okay, with a kind of a basic compensation, right?
Yes, more or less.
Like to sometimes, but not very often. I think it's more in my even the invitational with the three teams. This type of a competition, we don't have the kind of a compensation.
Okay.
And it's all. I think it's all different by the owners. And in some of the major cities, when they're, let's say in Shantian city, when you have all these open competitions, then you don't have the like base budget for the compensation. But for the invitational public projects, yes, you will receive a certain amount to cover the expense.
Okay.
But I think in this situation, in the rural projects where they are, I think in the rural, it's more difficult to find the architects. And now more and more young architects are working in the rural context, which with the smaller projects and easier access to the projects as well.
You open this door for the young architects. No?
I hope so. But yeah, I think it's how with this rural revitalization with the national campaign, it does encourage more young architects into the rural region, into rural context.
Perfect. I have one more question or comment. I don't know, but your presentation shown us a very good process of the way you record and register your work, and it's very important to create the story of each project. No, how do
by the way, amazing photographers you chose.
Yeah. And how do you plan this registration moment? I don't know, all these videos, and it's only, but it's your idea, or you have the government help as well?
Okay. For this, we really have to thank our photographer, Wang Zilin. We have been working with him for 7 years for all of our projects. So, and he's based in Beijing, and he's going to the mountain, once every a few months when there's a new projects coming in. So a few times in a year, he will be spending time in the mountain for like a week and taking all these photos. And also each project he will go there for like different seasons as well, because the region does have very beautiful and different views in different seasons. But also the idea to have all these pictures and videos and all these documentations is not only to showcase the architecture, but rather to promote the regional tourism. It's working with the tourism department as well. So it also become their material to promote for their campaigns. And now the tourism revenue in the county has increased 5 or 6 times in the past few years. So they do have more because in the early years when we first went to Songyang, it wasn't like a well-known place at all. Like even we didn't know what Songyang was back at that time, but now it has become a very popular destination for a lot of young people, actually, for the city residents, and for architects, for designers, for people who are curious about the rural culture and tradition in general. So it's in a way I think the whole Songyang story isn't only about the architecture, but it's really about what's happening in Songyang at this time of its 1,000 years of history, and what people are engaging or making a difference and making a progress in this social background. And it does making a kind of a transformation in this rural area. So it all these and so the picture, we are not only showing the architecture, it's actually rather showing the whole landscape. And so you get to know that the architecture is not the goal, not the destiny of our collaboration. It's rather the means to achieve more.
It's a part of.
Amazing.
Well, I have one more question. I have this opportunity to talk with Shantian.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm sorry about that, Shantian. But you shown us the concept of the acupuncture. It's very difficult word to say acupuncture. And how was created this concept? It's together with the government, or it's a architectural point of view of this strategy?
It was with everybody, but I don't think it was like intended to be a architectural, or it was how do you say that? It wasn't really started to give it kind of a title or a terminology for this whole strategy. It was more like everybody looking into the whole process. And we have first year when we were in Songyang, we worked over a dozen pro bono projects, small projects, and that was the most difficult time because we always fought with the contractors, with the villagers. There were a lot of a kind of a struggle to deal with in the beginning, in the first year. But there was also the time that we learned, we get to learn each other, we get to understand each other. And so after a few projects in the early year, we realized that, like this is the county with over 400 villages. You cannot, work with, and each village clan, they have something very unique. They're proud of, even only by the tofu, by the rice wine. It's still something they're proud of. So in that sense, we proposed if this could be kind of the angle to trigger the kind of engagement and also the collaboration and for the from the motivation with the villager communities, and because at that time they didn't have much of the hope or optimism with their village future. So that was the kind of the pride and honor. That was the strategy and the pride honor has to be kind of materialized with a space, with an architecture. And this architecture can also take multiple tasks. So that was the idea. So it wasn't about architecture. It was more about how to revitalize each village, to engage and to really make people proud again. So that was we called acupuncture, because acupuncture isn't about, where you inject the needles. It's about like a healing process to initiate, like to build up the circulation. And in that case, architecture become the kind of materialization in the whole program.
No, it's amazing.
I think Chinese people love to build houses, to have spaces. We did also try to communicate, if there could be like art pieces, but I think our villagers prefer something more practical.
No, and
in the 90s here in Brazil, we had this term acupuncture, but for urban interventions, and it was not like that. You said
it's very different.
Yes.
Yes, I hadn't asked about the urban conjuncture as a terminology, how compared, but I think it's different. It's in the rural situation, it isn't about the space or the architecture or the object. It's rather about the kind of a broader scope of kind of more about the social transformation.
Yeah. That, and you told in this interview that these buildings are quiet buildings. It's different from the because we can imagine that the Guggenheim of Bilbao, it's this big effect. This
Loudy,
it's like wow, screaming effect,
I do want to talk about that. Yeah, I think it's not about the kind of a more we call it rural identity, restore the rural identity. It's the opposite of what the iconic architecture used to do in the Chinese cities, where every building is trying to be something like really provocative or kind of a different, standing out. I would say that in this project we have been working with, it's more about merging with the existing context and the content as well. So the whole Songyang story, it's probably the opposite of the Bilbao effect, because I don't, for me, we of course every architect knows about the Guggenheim Museum, but that's the only impression for me at the moment for Bilbao, because I don't really understand. I don't really get to know the history, the tradition, what happened in Bilbao, for the past 100 years or for in the last centuries. But here you can, in the Songyang story, you get to know, people can they really make this production, or they live in this way, for centuries and for generations here, and you get to know, you get to learn the history of this place and the traditions of this place, and which are also continuing, all these kind of celebration or ceremony, and still carry on in their local lives.
No, amazing. It's very this word merge with the landscape. It's amazing. It's a very beautiful word.
Thank you.
I think we're done, right? Well, I have more 20 questions, but we don't have time.
Yeah, and it's too late in China, no? It's like
no, it's Saturday night.
it's your party.
And
Not started.
How is the pandemic situation in Beijing now?
The pandemic. Beijing is doing much better now. It had, I think in general, it didn't have that many cases in the beginning. And then in June and July, we had 2 months of rebounds. And so everybody kind of stayed back home for a few weeks and didn't really travel anywhere, because if you travel to another city, you will be forced for 2 weeks of a quarantine somewhere like nowhere. So nobody would like to travel at that time. So, and I think after about 2 months, it was the city recovered again, and now we have kind of a situations in some other cities, that say in Chengdu cities, and Shanghai just had a few weeks of kind of new cases, but that's not that many. So I think in general is that everybody really have this cultures. We're wearing masks. I have my I have my mask here, and we're keeping. No, we're fine, because we're working together always, and because everybody is wearing masks in the public spaces, and we also have the code like tracking, monitoring your your roots, where you have been to for the past 14 days. So that whenever you have a case confirmed, it's easier to find out where you have been to and who you are related with to track the other person. So basically, it's for the public health. It's working. It's helping efficiently. Yes.
Okay.
Because here we have a huge mess. We have
But now we have the vaccine coming out, and
yes,
yeah.
Yeah, in São Paulo, our state that where we are, it's producing with the Butantan Institute, that it's a huge institute of healthcare here, and it's Chinese.
Coronavac.
It's a Sinovac production, and now we are calling Coronavac. And it's amazing because the Chinese vaccine will save us.
Yeah, but also now there's the American vaccine, and also in
Pfizer one.
Yeah, in different countries. I mean the scientists or.
But here in Brazil, the first one is from Sinovac, and maybe we depend of the president, the sheet president that we have now, if he will buy Pfizer or Oxford. But
right to provide everything.
Because of the president, we are in the last of the list to buy the vaccine.
Okay.
Just the Sinovac that we have, but it's not because of the president.
Okay, but Brazil is just right after America, right? American is apparently the kind of the worst situation in terms of pandemic, and according to the news, they would have the vaccine provided to every citizen, maybe in early next year by summer. So we hope that the world will reconnect again next year.
Yes, please. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was amazing.
Thank you. It was
Thank you a lot.
A beautiful close to our course.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shantian. Can you stay with us after we
Yes,
shut down the broadcast, please? We're gonna do now a small close for the course, because that's our last conversation. Bom, em português, Shantian, okay?
No problem. Do you mind if I take a picture? You might? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. You can do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you take it?
Let me take it again. Thank you.
Peace and love. Bom, gente, a gente encerra, então, hoje, o nosso primeiro módulo do curso, né, Vada? A gente está batalhando aí, já está fazendo uma pressão pública agora para...
Negociando o segundo módulo.
Negociando publicamente, quase coagindo aqui as pessoas a fazer uma continuação. Foi muito produtivo, queria agradecer muito a presença, primeiro, de todo mundo que assistiu, agradecer muito a Escola da Cidade também, que possibilitou que a gente organizasse tudo isso, a todo mundo que ajudou dentro da Escola da Cidade, né, toda a assessoria de imprensa, o pessoal da comunicação, o pessoal do Conselho Pedagógico, né,
a Mariana Bogosian, que foi
incrível desde o começo. Enfim, eu acho que o pessoal do baú, o pessoal que fez todas as artes, né, das nossas conversas, e, bom, acho que o resultado...
A assessora de comunicação, que foi incrível também.
Exatamente, são várias pessoas que participaram e que fizeram com que a gente conseguisse manter essa alta qualidade de transmissão e também alta qualidade do conteúdo da conversa, né? Com todas as convidadas e todos os convidados incríveis que a gente teve e que vocês podem assistir na página da Escola da Cidade, do canal de YouTube da Escola da Cidade. Fico muito feliz, agradeço o Vada profundamente também por ter organizado junto comigo o curso. E, bom, é isso, a gente se vê o ano que vem, né? Se tudo der certo.
Pessoal, obrigado por tudo. Valeu, Marco, pela parceria, foi ótimo. Vamos ver se a gente consegue o semestre que vem. Talvez com alguns updates aí de formato, mas a gente vai avisar vocês. A intenção ainda é continuar com essa discussão sobre a arquitetura do Sul Global. Grande abraço, a gente se vê, bom ano para todos, boa virada de ano, se cuidem.
É isso aí, gente, obrigado e até
Tchau.
2021.
Tchau.